Founder and CEO of VEC, a digital delivery service firm that partners with owners and AEC stakeholders to drive innovation, speed, and scalability across large, complex projects. VEC has grown from a team of 1 to 300 over the past 8 years, fueled by their mission to challenge the status and reshape the way we plan, design, and construct the built world so humanity can thrive sustainably. Also, I was lucky enough to be the Mini Mic first episode, so check out their Mini Mic stuff. But let's welcome Shane to the stage. Thank you so much. Come on up, Shane.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope I got your heart kick-started a little bit with that intro. It's an honor to be up here, following Amy, Queen of Prefab, and Chris, and being able to look up to them as being such inspirational leaders across the industry. So I'm excited to talk to you guys today. I've got a different type of presentation than I normally do. And I think Kickstart My Heart ties in well with it. And it's going to start from the opportunity that's really before us. We're living through one of the greatest or the greatest infrastructure boom in American history. And we're building the most complex structures and infrastructure in human history. So it's created this moment of historic opportunity and historic challenges that we have to overcome. I'm going to walk you through a few of those major elements, kind of starting from the top down. Why is this boom happening? Why is it so important? What are those challenges and opportunities that have been created for us? And give some frameworks, plant some seeds that hopefully will stay in the back of your mind as you're progressing through the rest of this event. All right. America's AI Action Plan. Winning the race. This was published in July of 2025, and I just took this statement from the intro from our President of the United States. Today, a new frontier of scientific discovery lies before us, defined by transformative technologies such as artificial intelligence. It is a national security imperative for the United States to achieve and maintain unquestioned and unchallenged global technological dominance. There's a lot of other great statements in there, but it's pretty bold, it's pretty clear. When we talk about building data centers, it's not just about tech company stock valuations today or in the future. It's much more than that. It's about humanity. It's about what we can do to change and impact the lives of every generation that comes, for better or for worse, with this tremendous power that gets created. It's about us as a nation and what national security looks like and the global superpowers as this transition is underway. It's about America and what we're going to do to stay America. Our role as the creators of the built world, we don't just build structures. It's part of what we do. But we build the capacity for human advancement. And nothing can advance until we build it. And I've thought for many years about this because it's a bold statement to make, but I finally have come to acceptance that I truly believe that our industry is the most vital industry on the planet for those reasons. That for every other industry to thrive, for every other advancement that happens in healthcare or medicine or housing or commercial or you name it, it starts from the foundation of construction, from design, from an idea, and bringing that idea to life. Without it, nothing else can really advance or thrive. So we have a pretty important role in anything that happens across the United States. And we have a big ask of us right now. The challenge and opportunity. I've learned by being in this industry long enough to know that we need forcing functions, that we can talk about innovation, we can talk about great ideas, But when there's a forcing function that makes it imperative, we talk differently about it. We empower differently. We bend the rules differently, or we break the rules and define new rules for how to do it. So I broke it down into 3 components here that we're going to go through. 1, surging demand for AI infrastructure. Data centers, power, the grids, manufacturing, semiconductors, and the other infrastructure support components that enable those things. Surging demand for skilled labor. This is where we're going to focus into the forcing function that is driving a lot of what we need to figure out over the next 5 years. And then the demand, because of those items, for a new status quo. A new status quo that enables us to reduce those labor demand peaks without reducing the demand to build itself. Demand to think different, to build different. And Amy and Chris actually touched on it, and both of them in different ways. It's this 1%. It's realizing that to move an industry, it's done in small incremental progress. That can be 1% each day, probably more like 1% a week, or maybe even 1% a month. So we're going to go into that a little bit. The AI infrastructure demands. Let's talk about just high-level data, and I will make sure that everybody knows. Nobody knows really what this data is. Nobody knows really where it's going to go. There's a lot of think tanks and a lot of economists and a lot of people in the industry that are predicting what they think is going to happen from growth. No one really knows. Because a lot of our industry is highly confidential. And a lot of these facilities are highly confidential. To lead in the AI, though, we know for certain that we have to deploy more data center capacity in the next 5 years than the industry builds in the last 30 combines, if we can achieve it. The opportunity is there. The demand is there. This has triggered a cascading demands for power, grid, manufacturing, and all the related infrastructure to make it happen. When we look at these numbers, why I'm very skeptical about them is, me and my team, we're working across, I think, 40 active data centers right now, either in planning, design, or construction, that haven't popped up yet on that 35 gigawatts in 2025. Now, I'm just ballparking to at least 30 gigawatts capacity just right there. So this number is growing. The demand is there, capital is there, the desire is there. It's crazy. So let's jump into the skilled labor demands. And I have been trying to make sense of this data for months now. Trying to find the loophole, trying to find how it doesn't work, how it becomes something different. And I can't. Again, this is theoretical. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow or through 2030. But we can predict certain things based on what we know today. And so what you're looking at here on the vertical axis is number of craft workers in the millions to support the US construction market. That's taking out management, supervision, another couple million in that bucket. But let's just talk about the craft labor. Roughly 6 million as of start of this year. And then it's broken down as we work our way up in those millions, starting from, we'll go from top down. Data centers, very small sliver actually, when you look at the total construction economy. And we get into energy and infrastructure, get into advanced manufacturing. Then we get into everything else, all the hospitals, offices, residential, everything else that's incredibly important to our communities still makes up the lion's share. The red line is how our labor is being projected. And it's been largely, in the past, been able to be looked at as, hey, you know what, on a 10-year cycle, maybe we'll have 9 to 10% growth over that period to make sure that our the number that are retiring and we're thanking them for their service and saying goodbye in the industry, that we're backfilling that and meeting a modest growth. Kind of flat almost, but then things have become different in the last few years, and they're going to become a lot different in the next 5 years. When we look at what that system was built to do in terms of bringing people into this industry, it's created a problem. And as of the end of last year, we were short around 400,000 crafts, skilled labor on projects. Based on their kind of linear, slightly up line that has worked for a lot of decades and didn't work also during that time period. We're not ready for this, and that problem just keeps compounding. If anyone's interested in tearing through this data on your own, please, like happy to send it to you guys. There's tons of reports and analysis and all this, but no matter which source you're looking at, it kind of comes to the same conclusion. We don't have enough people to build it. So what are we going to do? This has created the third demand, a demand for a new status quo. And I'd like to share a story that I think hits on this point very well. My first big construction site, when I was running electrical work, standing out there with the superintendent of the GC, seasoned, knows what he's doing, and we're looking out at the job site. He goes, "Shane, young man, what's the first thing that we do with risk on a project?" I'm freshly out of college. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, sir, we're going to do a risk assessment. We're going to do a mitigation plan. Then we're going to go through, job hazard, JHAs and all pre-task planning and safety mitigate, all these things, right? He's like, stop right there. It's like the first thing we do with risk is we engineer it out of the equation. And then whatever is left and cannot be eliminated, then we go through all those things that you're talking about. You have to engineer the risk out of the equation. Our risk right now is labor. Anyone working in data centers and large projects already knows this, and it's not going to get better. There's no quick fix for this. You can't just flip the resource and hiring and all this overnight. It takes time, and lots of people are trying and doing it and moving, but it's not enough. It's not going to be enough. We have to accept that. It's not going to be enough while we keep doing everything we can to increase it. So this triad of influence circles, we've been doing a lot of work on the owner side with owners as an owner rep for digital delivery, and there's something that Amy had mentioned last year that I took a picture of it. I was like, yes. In her presentation said, innovation happens when the owner requires it. And I completely agree with the statement. It's a huge part of it. If an ecosystem isn't set up, if a culture isn't set up, a lot of what Chris talked about, if it's not set up from the top down to encourage it, to promote it, and require it, it's very difficult to push those ideas upstream. But it's only one piece of the puzzle. An owner rep team represents a very small percentage of that project. It's the team in the field, team in the office, the team that's virtual, that are seeing things, seeing opportunities to improve. And so it takes every single person to have their eyes open, have those ideas, and make sure that there's a process and a culture to enable it, which does start with that owner and goes down. Let's talk about advancing prefab, which will embody this whole thing of industrialized and modular and all the components that go with it. But since we're at advancing prefab, we'll call it advancing prefab. And Amy hit on it, and the team in the opening remarks about the 10-year anniversary. And yeah, prefab was nice to have. It was an innovation. It was a cool thing. It was, hey, let's try and figure this out. It's no longer a nice to have. It's now one of the essential ingredients to being able to have success in the next 5 years. One component, one important component. What Amy was presenting, beyond just the kit of parts, all the way up into systems and systems on systems, and what Chris was talking about, supply chain and how they're working with partners to do it. It's one important piece. It's still not going to solve our problem entirely across the industry, but it's very important. Looking to move work from a rural data center in Texas is hugely impactful. To do that, you have to start from the beginning. Think about it, plan it, actually have an intent to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. It can't happen from the, bring in the trades right before we're going to build this thing and go figure it out. It's not going to happen. But as much of that as we can look to take off the site, get it ready in a controlled environment, it helps. What it also does, it enables us to start to connect capacity and fab all across the United States. You might not have a local resource in Texas that has capacity to fab what's needed for this project? Someone probably does. Might be in California, might be in New York. And when you start to run with the right fab shops and you start to look at, you might look at, oh, well, California, we got super high wages. Yeah, but when you actually break it down and figure out the throughput that can happen and how it works, the money actually starts to make sense, regardless of that wage rates when you start to look at what you can achieve through it. We're seeing it. We have data centers on the East Coast that are being fabbed by incredible shops and teams on the West Coast, and vice versa. Texas is great. It happens to be in the middle. Makes it a little bit easier. So it's encouraging that opportunity. And from an owner standpoint, starting those discussions early. When you're selecting the trades for the project, you're selecting that fab team, really thinking through and finding capacity and capabilities anywhere across the United States to bridge that gap. Back to this think different, the famous Apple slogan, 1997. The video that's playing here is from one of our owner rep partners, Cipher Mining. They were the Advancing Prefab Project of the Year Awards in 2024 for a different data center. And when it comes to think different, I think that just going back a few years ago, I think maybe it was not as common to still find this, let's think different, let's put everything on the table, from an owner standpoint, at least. But I haven't experienced that as much today. Owners are thinking different. They're literally thinking outside of the box. You look at this and you wouldn't necessarily think this is a data center. There's no box. They thought outside the box. Box is gone. Right? It takes this ability to wonder. My wife and I, we traveled in a motorhome for a little while across North America, and we kept finding ourselves in these national parks and just random places in North America, and you stop and you look at something and you're like, man, I wonder how that happens. I wonder how that natural thing formed. I wonder. And we had to create a rule because we'd just be so quick to pull out our phone and look it up. And it killed the curiosity right there, killed the wonder. So we started a 24-hour rule. You had to wonder about it for 24 hours. And through that process of wondering, you start to think of all these different things. You come to find that it actually, if it's natural, it was probably formed by one certain answer. But we're talking about a job site, we're talking about design, talking about how to build a capacity that we're not ready to do. It takes that. It takes that ability to be curious, to wonder, and empowering the team to actually spend time thinking about it. If you're looking at something, wonder about it. Is this the best way to do it? Is there a better way that we could do this? Right? That's the foundation of challenging the status quo. You have to be curious, you have to wonder, you have to think. Then you have to be in an environment that you can share that dumb idea that might actually become a great idea. So think different, build different. 1% better each day. Here's some math for you. Now, 1% better each day on an individual level is very difficult because it's not just the idea, it's the actual testing, implementation, and systemization that makes it last. 1% each day, very difficult on an individual level, or even on a company level. If you could do it, you'd be 37 times greater by the end of that year than you were when you started it. 1% better each day. Compounding effects. If you could do one a week, 1% better a week, it'd be 70% better. If you could do one a month, 10% better. On an individual level, it might not seem like a lot to be 10% better throughout the year. But when you start to add individuals to individuals and companies to companies and ideas to ideas, that starts to compound at its own level. So it's having this culture of empowerment to think of dumb ideas and wonder about things, be curious to explore, have a form to bring that into whether kind of a reality check, and sometimes the reality check is another gate to walk through. Maybe it's not reality, it's someone's reality. Happens a lot in our industry. Nope, not gonna do it. Doesn't make sense, tried that once. Well, maybe it was a bad idea for that, or maybe you had the wrong person or the wrong team or wrong material to do it. But maybe we can do it. Ask questions. And don't be so quick to shoot down a dumb idea. Because it's that 1% that if we can do that, we start to chip away while our labor craft is coming up. We can start to chip away at those requirements, chip away at that gap. Fragmentation was mentioned earlier. What makes this so challenging in our industry is the fragmentation. And you've got two components of fragmentation, right? You look at this crazy mind map, all the different people that are working together, all the different groups that are working together. And then on every job, like on most projects, maybe not how we heard Compass is doing it today, which is great, but on a lot of jobs, that's going to be a different team on every single job. Even if it's the same company, it might be a different team. And every company is like a company within a company within a company, right? You work with a superintendent in the same company on that job and then a different one on this job, different ways of doing it, different ideas, different pain from the past, different things that worked from the past. You know, so that's kind of first. You got this fragmentation across so many players, so many people that it takes to build something big in our industry. And then you have this fragmentation component of, you know, I like this E&R top 400. And this is a reference to, if you go to the E&R top 400 from last year or the year before, whatever one's last, for the general contractors, and you add up all of their total volume out of the 2.1, 2.3 trillion that's happening in the United States, that 400 group of the biggest general contractors make up less than 25% of the market. So if you somehow get all 400 general contractors to get aligned and move in one direction and somehow align on every project, all this fragmentation to happen, you somehow do all that, you've still only impacted 25%. Take the biggest GC, the biggest trade, the biggest owner, they're a fraction of a percent. Although they might have the greatest ideas and the greatest workflow, it takes time for that to permeate throughout the rest of the industry, if it ever gets there. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So we've got these different forcing functions here that make it a bit challenging. When you look at the opportunity we have, the ask of us as the creators of this built world, the reliance on us, the responsibility that we have, we've got to figure this out. And it's not easy. There's no shortcut. It takes that 1%. So today, and throughout this conference, I hope that maybe this can give you a few things to think about, right? One, from a 1% standpoint, Amy mentioned it. Maybe you write down 10 great ideas, things that you've learned or people you've met. Just pick one. Just pick one, see how it goes. If it works, systemize it, then take the second one. Don't try to bring 10 ideas back and launch 10 ideas because you'll end up with 0 ideas being implemented. Second is, because of this fragmentation, it takes events like this that we can commune, come together to start to figure out and see different options. If you're going to fab something on the West Coast, you need someone to buy it on the East Coast if you want to ship, right? So this is the environment that you can start to look at it from a networking standpoint. This fragmentation, very difficult ecosystem to navigate through. There's the human element. So I hope today we can all, in this week, we can spend time taking some of those 1% ideas back, making some connections that can help bridge these gaps. After all, our nation is asking it of us. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple minutes for some Q&A. Let's sit down for a minute. We literally have about 5 minutes.
Cool.
Join me on the couch, the big couch.
Nice.
It's comfy, right?
Yeah, it's very nice.
I'm struck by your presentation with the amount of people in that fragmentation slide. And so give some advice, I think, like when I see that it's almost overwhelming, and that's why we're picking partners so that we're not looking at different people in every one of those places every single time. There has to be learning. Can you give some advice to some of the people that are here? What should they do first, knowing that they're thrust into the sea of fragmentation? How do they stand out?
Yeah. And I'll speak just kind of from a lens. When we're working with owners, a lot of our discussions is like, hey, do you know a company? Do you know a team that could be a good fit for us? You guys talked about that earlier too, forming these pods or these groups that can stay consistent and they trust each other and work together. And so it's first being able to build that trust. And it can just be with one group, one company, one team, and then building on that trust, saying, hey, we did a really good job together, you know? What are you doing next? Can I go with you? Can you make an introduction for me? And it's you know, taking it from the self-interest and self-focus into how can I not only you know, indirectly benefit myself, but how can I help this movement, help break this fragmentation? You know, it's a lot of the introductions that we'll make is, hey, you know, we don't do that, but this is a great company for you to know, and I think they might be able to help. So I think it's through events like this of being able to build that initial relationship, build some trust, and then figure out how you can scratch each other's back.
I agree with that. I think we have to help each other in life. I just, you know, that's important for me to, I'm a rugby player. For those of you who don't know, I'm big into rugby. And we say we leave the jersey better than we found it. Like, you got to leave the jersey better than you found it, right? So like, you got to come to these conferences and do one good thing that has nothing for payback for you at all. Just connect a couple of people, do something good. I learned that from Nancy Novak, my sponsor.
Yeah.
I'll give you, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that second component is first like recognizing like fragmentation. I think it's like we've been talking about like labor shortages for years, right?
Yeah.
But like actually recognizing that it's real. Like fragmentation is real. This is the way our industry operates, for better or worse, mostly for worse. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
So understand it and figure out a plan to be able to work with it.
I've got one question here. Like, we have a lot of good advice, but what's something we should all stop doing? Only one thing. No. What are some things or one thing we should stop doing?
I'll give one. One of my biggest pain points. Stop waiting until pre-construction to figure out if you can build your facility. I mean, geez, please. You know, we ask so much of our construction teams, and in the pre-construction stage, in the virtual environment, is when we're leveraging the tools to figure out, is it constructible? It hasn't been optimized while we're trying to order material and long lead and fabricate and all these things, and you have to go build it the next day. So it's a big part of what we've been trying to do with owners is pull that upstream, a lot of what you were talking about around systems and systems of systems, and it has to be done early. So if you're a decision maker that can drive that, you know, ask a lot of your construction team, but and ask them to figure out if your entire project's constructible and hemorrhage hundreds of RFIs in that process and then expect them to build it at the same time.
How do people work with your company? I think we're getting a lot of questions like that for Chris and for you.
Yeah, so for us, so we originally started working with electrical contractors, since that was my background.
Go Sparkies.
So we do a lot of work direct with electrical contractors, working with their field team, their management team, their fab team, in that virtual environment, side by side with their team, to really master the virtual builds and prepare it for fabrication and construction. That applies across, we'll say, the trades. General contractors, we help facilitate and run that coordination aspect, as well as the on-site technology component. And then last is on the owner side, being able to work as an owner rep for digital delivery. You know, all owners are different in terms of their, we'll say, sophistication of where they've gotten. You hit on it around the standard component, the data component. And it starts from that owner level to be able to set clear expectations and that plan that actually enables these things. So and I think what's important to know too is, like, we work with a lot of the biggest companies in the industry. Everybody has internal teams, but that same labor shortages that we have in the field is no different from the management office, the field supervision, the virtual environment. They are all short on resources, and we're all drawing from the same resource pool. So it's it's through those partnerships and trust, like we can help each other and build big things together.
Shout out, I saw you brought my friend Lindsay Dubassar here on your internal team for owners. Like, shout out to the girls in the back.
It's our first week.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for all your time today and for your talk. I really appreciate it. Let's give him a big round of applause to Shane.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.